Mmm. Mmm. It's so good, you guys. Anyone know the cookies, the sugar cookies that you get in the store? They're like in the carton and they have all that fluffy frosting on top and then this fluffy sugar cookie. Those were my kryptonite before it was gluten-free. I swear just going gluten-free probably saved me 20 pounds because of those cookies. But today we are recreating that cookie so you can experience it if that's what you've been looking for. Stay tuned, keep watching. I'm gonna be sharing 2, maybe 3, sometimes I don't know what's gonna come out of my mouth, tricks or tips that made all the difference for me when it comes to baking cookies, and especially these cookies. I am using this. This is an old cookbook that my grandmother had, and it's one of those like fundraiser cookbooks that's stuffed full of like old notes and things like that. And when my grandfather just passed away at like 93, all of us in the family got to like choose some of grandma's cookbooks that he had had. This recipe comes from that. We're adapting it from the gluten version, and it's worked pretty well for me. Now the flour that I use, which is usually a big question, right? Like, what flour do I use? Generally with this recipe, you can use any 1-for-1, any flour that has xanthan gum in it, or you're probably gonna need to add like 1/4 of a teaspoon-ish of xanthan gum to make this gluten-free. Now what I'm using, which you can't tell, but this is my bread flour. Oh, it's dirty. Which is what I use my gluten-free bread machine recipe. If you haven't watched that, I'll put it in the comments below. That is my most popular video on YouTube, over 100,000 views, and it is my fail-proof one. Super simple recipe here. We're gonna start off creaming your sugar and your Crisco. Now Crisco, that's what this recipe calls for. I use butter-flavored Crisco. If you are dairy-free, these are actually dairy-free, just the cookie. The cookie part is a dairy-free recipe. Use butter-flavored Crisco. You can also use any fake butter because that's the same thing. Just so you guys know, when you're buying the very expensive fake butters, it's very similar to Crisco, butter-flavored. Probably is a little bit better texture. It's pretty much the same thing. That's what this recipe calls for, which is really handy because then it's always at room temp. I keep mine at room temperature. And this is important because you want to get it creamy and fluffy, and that can only really happen if it's at room temperature. So don't skip that step with your butter. What you could do to get it to room temperature quicker is actually shave the butter, like on a, shred, not shave, shred your butter, like you might do carrots, and then put it in the sun and it can warm up very fast. It really only needs to be like 68-ish degrees. It doesn't have to be like super warm, just not cold. And then you put that in there with your sugar. And you guys just use, this is a fairly small recipe, and I'll be posting it down in the comments and the description because it is only 1/4 cup of shortening and 1/2 cup of sugar. So you can double it. I like that it's small because we can make these, and then it's like enough cookies for us each to have a couple for my family. There's 5 of us, and then we're good, we're done. But if I was doing this for a big group of people, I would double the recipe. You're gonna blend it. Now look, first it gets kind of grainy, and then it will turn fluffy. Do not stop that machine until it's fluffy. If you do not have this beautiful stand mixer, you can use an electric mixer. You can do it with your hand, but it's gonna take a long time to get that great texture. It's not the end of the world. You don't have to have the perfectest baked good in the world to enjoy your cookies. But I'm gonna share what I've learned, because when we had an apartment, I never pulled out that big stand mixer I have over there because it felt like a pain. So we moved in the house and I had it sitting on my counter because I finally had space. I was like, whoa, game changer. I use it all the time now. It's very easy. You're gonna blend that, cream it together, then you're gonna add in your egg, also at room temp, ideally. Not the end of the world if it isn't, but all you have to do is what I do. Oh crap, I forgot to pull out my egg. I pull out the egg, I put it in warm water, like a measuring cup, for about 5 minutes, which is like, I pull it out, put it in the warm water, then I go on and get my recipe ready. And by the time I'm ready for that egg, it's definitely warmer. But again, these textures, it's all like science and baking texture-y stuff, and it can really help. And you're gonna blend in your egg until it's fully incorporated and fluffy. Then your flour, your baking powder, and your salt, whisk that together. And then you're gonna put it in with other flour, but you're gonna do half at a time. Do small batches so it incorporates nicely. And then once that's all done, you're just gonna put in your vanilla. I put in a full teaspoon of vanilla. We love our vanilla here. Now, I've often used the Costco one. To me, this is probably your best deal per price for real vanilla. You guys have heard what's in fake vanilla, right? I have used it. I'm not judging you. It's probably just good to know what's actually in there. That's what I use. This is our Mexican vanilla, which my husband's family got me into. It feels like to me has a coconut undertone, which I do like for some things. And then this Singing Dog vanilla, they actually gave me this bottle to try and to see. I'm not getting paid to share. Really love it. And I was excited. This is an alcohol-free version. I asked for this because I wanted something when I wasn't cooking that I could put the vanilla in and it wouldn't have the alcohol-y taste. Highly recommend. I will put some links below. The links below are, I get from Amazon, I get a tiny bit, talking maybe 20 cents if you buy. So I just put them there but you're gonna hear more about this vanilla. Just keep listening. You will hear more about this vanilla. I put in a full teaspoon of vanilla because gluten-free flour needs more flavor than regular flour. You could also put in like a half a teaspoon of vanilla and like a fourth of almond extract. We're just not almond people around here. But you want that flavor. So don't skip your salt and don't skip the vanilla. Then this is another trick that I had skipped. If you have ever had the sugar cookie or any cookie that like you cook it and it just spreads out and you have this really thin, long cookie and they all merge together on the tray. You guys know what I mean? You need to chill your dough. This is what I've recently learned. Just sharing what I learned here. For this recipe, I just stick my whole thing in the fridge for about 30 minutes until it's hard. This also helps you if you feel like your dough's soft and sticky, because we're gonna be rolling it out, right? This really helps you not have to add more flour, which throws off the ratio. So let it stay in the fridge at least 30 minutes. You can do an hour. You can do quite a bit. And then you're gonna pull it out and you're gonna do your flouring your board, rolling it out, and you can cut it into shapes. I've also done where I just did a ball and then flattened it some, and that makes these ones here, which works too if you want something really simple. But sugar cookies are fun to decorate. And then you can also put it back in the freezer for like another 30 minutes to help it hold its form. Because if that butter Crisco is cold, when it goes into the oven, it doesn't like melt, it bakes. That's all I got for technicality. That's all I know how to explain it. And it really helps it hold its form and not spread out while you're baking. Now, we're gonna bake these at 425 for about 7 minutes. The top is gonna look very pale, but it'll just be starting to brown. Just starting to brown on the bottom. You don't want them, like this one's a little bit too dark. See how dark it is? This little hand got overcooked. You don't want it that dark. You're gonna pull it out about 7 minutes, and then you leave it on that tray 2 to 5 minutes. And then you put them on your cookie rack till they're completely cool. What happens when you put frosting on a warm cookie, cake, cupcake? It melts, it runs. So cookies don't take long to cool, but completely cool before you frost it. Now I have a recipe that I often use, and I will put this recipe down in the comments. But Singing Vanilla sent me their frosting mix. I used their frosting mix. This was great. It has the sugar in there, and then it has vanilla bean, and see the little bean specks? It has the vanilla bean specks, and it has the vanilla liquid flavor. So you put that in with your powdered sugar, you put in, I think it's like a stick of butter and a tablespoon of milk, and you just whisk it all up, and it tastes so good. I totally added a pinch of salt because I always do that. And it was amazing. Some of the best frosting we'd had. My daughter, I feel like she summed it up really well. And she's like, it tastes like ice cream, Mom. Good vanilla ice cream, except on a cookie. Totally made the cookie. Now you could totally just mimic this using high quality vanilla and then scrape in one vanilla bean. Really good. So this frosting mix is actually for cupcakes, but I like fluffy frosting on my cookie because I'm trying to mimic those super addictive sugar cookies at the store that I can no longer buy for my own good. So highly recommend checking out that frosting. I'm gonna put the link down there below. Also totally can make your own. 100% powdered sugar, butter, shortening, vanilla, salt, a little bit of milk. Any kind of milk you want. So that can be totally dairy free. Also, you can use just the Crisco instead of butter for that. Really good. You guys ready for this? Here's my concern. I know it's gonna be really hard for me to eat just one when I take a bite of this. The vanilla flavor is so much more, I wanna say warm, than a lot of when you use regular vanilla because it's just more in-depth flavor. Go make some cookies. So go spend some time with your family, make some for loved ones, get messy with your kids. Go check out one of my other baking videos. I have a lot of good ones out there to enjoy this holiday season.